Hey, horror fiends, welcome back to episode 4 of Horror Fiend TV podcast featuring The Last of Us. Now, my name is Lexi. I have my partner in crime, JR, but as you can see, I am missing one of my partner in crimes, Ricky Grimes himself. Rumor has it that he got stuck with Fedra, so we're hoping he can escape out of the QZ to join us and dive in on this conversation because this episode was good, and I know you have different views. And so, what was your first reaction to this?
This one is different. I felt like, let's be honest, episode 3 was, for me, I think it was the best episode in the series. I mean, part 1 had a lot of good action. Episode 1 had good actions, but 3 was the one that you had the most emotions on. This one, I felt like it was purposely done to, like, I won't say be a full, like, filler episode, but you did have certain spots in this episode where, you had like a long drive scenes where basically the episode kind of dragged in certain places.
What's his name?
Whose name?
Your brother.
Tommy.
Younger or older?
Younger.
Why isn't he with you?
Long story.
Is it longer than 25 hours? Because I think that's what we got.
Episode 3 was so good that episode 4 I felt like had a lot of pressure to try to be like episode 3, but the fact that they didn't do that, I was fine with. And I mean, they got on the road. You got to see a little bit more of the outside of QZ zone, outside of where Bill and Frank were. The further growth of the two characters, Joel and Ellie. But at the same time, to introduce us also to another element that's outside of the QZ zone, being other people who are willing to do whatever is needed to survive. I mean, and then we got introduced to character that I'm a little hesitant about, Kathleen, and then this episode it has some action sequences, but I felt like it was just more like a filler to not overshadow or be underwhelmed after the episode 3.
Yeah, this episode I really liked. Episode 1 we got to meet Sarah. Episode 2 we got with Tess. Episode 3, Bill and Frank, it was all tearjerkers to me. So this one, I felt like, okay, I might have, cried a little bit, and I'll tell you what part it was. But I didn't cry as much as the first 3, and I felt like there was more action. So I actually loved it. Like you said, the growth of Joel and Ellie. I've always said since the first episode that Joel he's an onion with a lot of layers. So we got to peel back a lot in this episode. And I loved seeing that side. I loved every scene. I am in agreement with you about the whole Kathleen Perry part. And we'll dive more into them too in just a sec. But I'm going to just say it now. They're not in the game.
Oh.
So they're new characters to me. And so, me and Ricky Grimes are longtime players of this game. But I feel like with Kathleen and Perry, I feel like you right now. Like I'm going in blind with those two. Yeah. So I get why they're in there, but I'm going to pause that for just a sec. Overall, I loved the growth with Joel and Ellie. There were so many moments that they had where, especially from the very beginning, where they had the pun jokes. Yeah. She breaks out that book, and she's trying to get him to laugh, and he's like, "Dear God, just go in the truck." Like, he's so annoyed. But I felt like that was the one onion peel peeled back. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then we get to the second pun joke. After, the whole scene, the action scene where they get into that fight, and then she breaks open the book. I think a second time. Oh, no, it was in the woods. That's right. Yeah. It was in the woods. That was the second time. And then after the fight was when they were in the building, about to go to sleep. And then it was just 3 peels layered there. It was every time she said a joke. So watching them grow, especially Joel, and I kind of dressed up as both of them. I got his plaid shirt. When he takes off his jacket at the end, he wears a plaid green shirt with red outline, but I kind of went backwards here. I have red on green. And then I have Ellie's jacket. So my name's Joelle, or as my daughter likes to make fun of me, it's Jelly. Whatever. But overall, good episode. There was definitely more pros than cons, but we'll get into the cons.
All right.
So what did you and I wrote in my notes the growth of Joel and Ellie, but I also wrote Kathleen because I felt like she was interesting, but I had issues with her. So bonus question, I guess. What did you think?
I'll be honest, I didn't like the way she was introduced. It felt like, all right, here we go. Let's throw in the leader of this new ragtag group. I mean, there's no explanation of it. There was no. I'll be honest, I never felt like she was the leader. I mean, it just. If you know that her character, you know the actress she's played in other films, that she's always played this shy, reluctant individual. To put her in that position where she's supposed to be like some tough ass and be all hardcore, I had a hard time buying it. Like the whole scene where she's interrogating the doctor because he betrayed them or something, and I had a hard time buying the character. Mm-hmm. I mean, then you had the scene where the kid got stabbed by Joel, and there was the other one who was basically bleeding out. Like, oh, what if I had a doctor, and then you go and shoot the doctor? That whole thing just didn't make sense to me. I mean, I almost felt like what was his name? Perry was her right hand man.
Yeah,
where he had the look of the leader, that he should have been the leader, but I had a hard time buying the whole. And the thing is, you have somebody who's a leader, and right off the bat, you get a sense by some of the people and their reactions to whatever vendetta she has against Henry, that is basically her focal point, because there's a scene where they're looking for Sam and Henry, but they're also looking for the outsiders, as they call them.
The collaborators. Yes,
and they go into that room, and then the ground starts moving, and then they close the door quick, and Perry's like, should we tell people? Oh, no. I mean, let's find, we got to stay on task. Let's find Henry first. I mean, it's just, a lot of it just seemed like almost like it was just thrown into the mix just to throw something into the mix.
Mm-hmm. Now, being the gamer, like, I have a little insight on the little pockets that bother us, but I completely agree. Her character, and, we're probably going to get comments, but she was weak. I'm sorry. She wasn't the bad bitch that I wanted her to be. She didn't come off that way. And like you said, she's in different shows. Like, I know that she's in 2.5 Men, an appearance on The Frighteners, but she was always just laid back, romancy, quiet, soft-spoken. And for her to go into a leadership type, yeah, you're right. Perry, it should have been the other way, and she was listening. I like her as an actress. I really do. I'm not shitting on her. I really am not. But to be put in this position, I don't think it was casted right for her. And just to give a little insight of the little things that I do get, the part where Perry and her walk in and see the broken concrete, that's set up for something coming soon. Now, I have my theory on that part. It's not in the game, but I feel like I have a theory that I think it does play a role player in the game. So we'll get there maybe on the Easter egg question. But I felt the same. I felt Perry should have been the leader, and he was cool and cool looking. I felt like there was super vague scenes throughout that whole thing. Like, we've talked about it in the past, even on our show, What's Your Story? And there's movies that we've seen that we don't mind the vagueness, but this one was way too vague that I needed more. Like, what was with the doctor in the Fedra cell? Maybe that's where Rick's at, and he's trying to figure it out, And I just felt there was a misconnection. I know they kind of played on it. I held you as a baby. I birthed you, and so there's some type of connection with the two. But for her to be what they called as ruthless, she wasn't I don't know how to explain her. She just wasn't right for the part is what bothers me. I get why they did it, because when we meet Sam and Henry in the game, we just meet them. We run into them. You don't get no backstory. We're just like, hey, what's up? Okay, let's, work together. But we don't get what they're running from. You know that they're hiding out in the game, but we don't know what they're running from. So is this the backstory? But this isn't a backstory to me. It was too vague for me. I wanted more from both Kathleen and Perry. I wanted them to convince me, and I wasn't convinced. So that's my thought on it.
Yeah, because even the scene where she goes, "Oh, let's find out who these people are. Let's get everybody who's collaborating with them and kill them all." And
I think the situation under the concrete is way more important.
Yeah, I just didn't buy the whole speech where let's kill them all, and it's just I mean, usually you figure somebody in that position would doesn't come off as nice as she was, because even she has some moment of hesitancy where her leadership was questioned. But you just wanted that ruthless character that just didn't give a crap, not for nothing. If you're ruthless, Perry, stay here and guard it. Perry, stay here and guard the door. Let me know if this thing breaks out. But she was so hesitant on everything. I like the actress, and I think that was one of the
I really do like
points.
her.
That's definitely one of the weak points of this episode.
I just don't think she was casted correctly for this position. And I really do like Melanie Lynskey. She's a great actress. She's in so many other things that she's great at. So I'm not sitting on her. Don't sleep on her, people. She's actually great, just not for this.
She's good at Castle Rock. Very good at Castle Rock.
Yeah. She's also in she has a little part in Frighteners. It's not big. But she's in 2.5 Men, which is a good, funny sitcom on TV late at night. But yeah, I knew her as soon as I saw her face. I was like, really? I was like, okay. But we'll move on from her before we bite our tongues here. Okay, so this is going to be for me to tell you. Changes in the game, Easter eggs. There was actually leaking a lot of Easter eggs. And I know before, I get into the Easter eggs, there were other scenes that I guess we should mention that I know that Rick and I talked about behind the scenes before somehow he got caught and locked up. But the scene that I know Rick was waiting for was the truck scene. He said it last podcast. And it was the part where, the guy's in the alleyway. Yeah. And he's like, I'm hurt. And the scene he was waiting for, or the line he was waiting for, was he's not hurt, but he just said no to Ellie's question in the show. So it is like simple, it's nitpicking, but it's simple little things like that we were waiting for. And so and I kind of agree. I was like, oh man, they didn't say he's not hurt. Because Joel, like he said, he explained it. He was on both sides, so he knew. Figure I'd mention that. But in the scene after that, we get Ellie, who shoots for the first time, or so that we see in that moment. Shoots the guy in the back. She feels bad, he can't feel his legs. He's calling about his mother. But to us in the game, that wasn't her first shot, which saving Joel was. So Joel, I guess they were in this building in the game, and they just got done with clickers and stuff. It was right after the whole test situation where Fedra comes in. But he goes through this door entryway trying to get to Ellie on the other side of the door. Because remember, she's in the hole in the show, but he's trying to get over this, I guess, a hole in the door. But he can't get to her because someone pops up and starts attacking him. So it's similar, but definitely two different areas of the game versus the show. But anyway, the difference is Ellie's in the show obviously visually upset, whereas Ellie in the game is a little tougher. I'm sure it bothers her, but you definitely don't see that it bothers her in the game. But Joel's the same. He's not comforting in either the game or the show. Other things that were Easter egged in was, so besides The Last of Us, there's a mini game called Left Behind, and there was little hints of Left Behind leaked into this episode. So Left Behind, I don't want to say too much about that one because we haven't gotten that far on some parts, but the one part that's in Left Behind that I felt like was kind of Easter egged into this episode was, one of the things was the pun book. The pun book that she's holding in the very beginning is exactly the same pun book in The Last of Us Left Behind. And it was given to her by someone special, and I don't want to say that name yet because Ellie doesn't want to talk about it. She says that in this episode, and that reason why she doesn't want to talk about it is because of the person that gives her the pun book. And so I'm kind of curious if they're going to bring that person into this now, because it just kind of, when I saw it, I was like, and honestly, I'm really glad the pun book was in it, because in the game, like throughout, and it's around this scene and the next one that we're about to get into this Friday, that drops Friday. But she brings the pun book out around that time because Joel is hardened. He's, doesn't want to hear anything from this child's mouth. But yeah, I loved that in the game she tries to lighten up the mood, and so they did the same thing in this. She tries to lighten up the mood. So it's the exact same design, the purple book, the volume 2 TOO. But the backstory of that pun book comes from the person from Left Behind. So I feel like they're going to kind of mix and intertwine the two. And I'm hoping that they do that, because that would give a lot of Ellie's backstory. Also, you notice that not only did she not want to talk about it, but she said, or the question that Joel actually asked was, when we were talking about killing innocent people, what did you mean that wasn't your first time? So if you kind of put 2 and 2 together, it's another Left Behind situation. So Left Behind, she's given a pun book by somebody special. So put the title in that situation, and you can only know what might happen with that. But it does give a little insight on her past, and I'm kind of hoping they leak this into The Last of Us, because I'm sure they're not going to do a whole season on just Left Behind, because it really is just like a short 30-minute. You can beat the game in 30 minutes. But, so the scene where she's in the hole at the convenience store, I guess, or the store that, or it looked like a laundromat actually, because the laundry. But the scene where they crash the car, she crawls in the hole, and then after he kills the guy, Brian, he's like, well, is there any way I can get in? She goes, yeah, there's a door, but the dresser's behind, blocking it. And so that exact moment where she pulls and he's banging on the door twice, it's exactly like the game, because it's the same sound and he does it twice and he's in the game. So I love that he did it twice and he was in. And same thing, she's pulling at the same time. So I was like, oh, that it sounds like they kind of almost CGI'd that whole sound.
Yeah.
Not that they did. I don't think they did at all, but it sounds very, I thought, it's not really an Easter egg, but it, to me, sounding and hearing it all the time on the game sounded exactly the same. So touching back on just Joel and Ellie, there was so much growth between the both of them. I mean, from pun jokes to the camping, and the little mini jokes. Like I know that Rick was waiting for the truck scene with the guy hurt in the alley, but I was waiting for the truck scene where she talks about the magazine.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
That whole scene is in the game. The whole drive is in the game, and even to the background that you have behind you, and in the very back too. That whole thing is in the game. So I loved that they kept that whole first part true to. I mean, the whole episode was almost to the T. Besides Catherine and Perry. Oh, Perry, another Easter egg. Perry voices Tommy on the game. So he actually plays Joel's brother on the game.
All right.
And the way that Tommy is dressed in the game is exactly how Perry's dressed right now. So I thought that was awesome. I was like, that's not Perry or whoever the hell he is. That's Tommy. But I like that he kept his role visually in 3D mode. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, he voices Tommy. What do you think of all those Easter eggs?
No, I mean I know that Rick had mentioned the magazine before about how Frank had those magazines. The fact that Ellie stumbles upon the magazines. I thought that scene was hysterical because you had the whole
father-daughter moment.
Yeah, she's like looking at it, and so she makes of course the jokes. How could you walk around with that thing? And then he's just like put it down, and she's like, oh, why the pages are so sticky? You're like, they can't go to the 42nd.
Right.
They're laying down, and she goes, I remember the joke too. She goes, do you know that diarrhea is diarrhea is in your
it's
hereditary because it's in your genes. So like even though I like a little bit of that one, but to finally see him crack and laugh and
to loosen up, yeah.
I mean I think that was a very, very good touching scene,
right?
Because the whole time even when he talks about Tessa, and he goes, whatever it was, it worked. I mean, he couldn't even describe the fact that they were in a relationship. For somebody to be as hard as he is, it's going to take a lot for him to crack in.
I agree. And even in this episode, with all those good moments with them too, he still says she's cargo.
Right.
So I feel like I wrote on my notes, Joel cares. Because you can tell he does. He's stubborn man. But he can say she's cargo all she wants. This is kind of around the time where he starts, like I said, peeling those layers, and he starts to kind of open himself up to almost, I mean, we're not there yet, but he's gonna make her a family, because he had that whole talk about Tess was family to me. You're cargo. So I feel like deep down inside, and he doesn't want to feel this way, but she will eventually be family to him. But again, he's stubborn. We're not going to see it anytime soon. But you'll start, I don't want to say too much, but you're going to see those layers peel more and more and leak out. So I do like the subtle moments that they have with each other, from the magazine scene to getting, attacked. And there was a moment where they were behind the truck, and he's like, make eye contact with me, like, look at me, like, get in the hole, and they're not going to hit you. And she's like just looking around because she's a kid. She's scared and frightened. And so he's like, look at me. And you could tell right there he gave a shit. I don't know. Maybe it's because I know the background, but I felt like in those moments he was slowly peeling, like, look at me, getting her to focus. Then he laughs at her stupid joke at the end. And that's the part I cried out. Okay. It was the whole poop scene is what made me cry. Because it was nice to see him laugh and smile. And he's like, Jesus, I'm losing it. Oh, and the part where they got up to the 35th floor finally, and he sits down, and she's like, get up, lazy ass.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm 56 fucking years old, you little shit. That part was hilarious to me too. But it's just moments like that. Like I call my daughter little shit. She is my little shit. And she loves that I call her that. And so when she saw that scene with me, she's like, hey, that's my name. But kids are little shits. Really are, especially around that age, Ellie's age. They're definitely little shits. But yeah, I love the growth. So what I'm curious is, what are you expecting to, because we ended, I felt like we ended perfectly, where they just introduced Sam and Henry. That's who Kathleen's looking for.
Right.
And I'm hoping she does better. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt because I really do like Melody Linsky. Yeah. I'm hoping she does better. But what are you looking forward to when it comes to them two, or is there anything else that you're kind of interested in?
You know, I think the bigger question going into is exactly what is it that Henry and Sam did to draw the ire of Kathleen? Because there's a hidden agenda somewhere there. Whatever the agenda is, we don't know yet, making people curious about her character. What exactly was it that Henry did? Did he question her? I mean, it was just unknown exactly what was the motive behind going after Henry. And yeah, definitely. I mean, I like her as an actress, and certain actresses or actors I feel like they're wasted. So I'm hoping that there's something about her in this next episode that sheds more light in the fact that she knows more about certain things. You know, especially whatever was. She obviously knew what it was was breaking through the ground. It's not like she didn't know. So she knows what's coming. And Perry knows what's coming. So what is it exactly that they know that they're going to keep from the rest? But yeah, definitely what's going on with Kathleen, Henry and Sam, what's with them, and yeah, what's the next journey and steps for Joel and Ellie?
Yeah, I cannot wait for. Well, do you watch the previews after the episode ends?
I don't.
No, okay, I do because I can't freaking help it. But when I saw the preview, there was a scene that I saw in that preview that I cannot wait to get to, and I'm so fucking glad that it's in the next one. I'm just going to call it the sniper scene. And I'm so happy that it's in it. But my theory that's going to play along with that scene is the part where Perry and Kathleen go into that little area where the concrete's broken. I think a certain something is in there, and it's going to pop out, and it's going to get crazy. I don't want to give too much away, but I think because the reason why I think this is because there was a line that she said in that scene. She said, board it up, and then we'll tell the others later. So when she said board it up, it made me think to the scene in the game, and if my theory is correct and that happens, then shit's about to go down. And yeah, I don't, because so far everything's been spot on, but there's been subtle changes that can, even the subtlest change can make the whole thing just veer left. Right. And you just don't know what. I'm like, oh man, that was a small change, but it's a bigger impact. So I don't. And with spores not being in this and it's in the flour, I don't know how it's going to work. And I'm a little nervous, but I'm happy that what I saw in the preview is going to be in there. And I'm just curious on how it's going to play out. So I guess that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm also looking forward to Sam and Henry for sure.
Yeah.
I've been waiting for them. They are definitely going to be vital when it comes to Joel and Ellie and the relationship between the two. Not only just as them as and their brothers, but not as them, but also how they coordinate and work with Joel and Ellie. So, like I said, we've been getting subtle changes. So I don't know how this is going to play out because they had guns pointed at them.
Yeah.
Rightfully so. And that's how they met in the game is they just kind of run into them and they're all four of them are holding guns at each other. So it's like, who the fuck are you? Who are you? So I am curious on what the background, because we don't get a background story with Sam and Henry. So I'm kind of curious on how Kathleen plays into this and Perry plays into this. which I like Perry already, even though he was quiet, more than Miss Talkative, so-called badass Kathleen. Ricky Grimes is okay. We might have to go save him, honestly. We're going to have to find truck, gas, the Chef ID, raviolis. We're going to have to go save our boy.
I'll be at Bill and Frank's. I'm not going to.
You're like, I'm staying put in my nice-ass Billstown.
Yeah.
Oh, it's going to be JR's town now. Until next time, and I can't wait to watch the 5th episode of The Last of Us, which is dropping this Friday, tomorrow, instead of Sunday because of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So, do not forget that. Until next time, I'm Lexi, my partner JR. Peace.